It is Wednesday, and if any of you have watched any of these episodes, you have learned that Wednesday is my new personal favorite day of the week because it is the day I get to bring amazing people to you. I get to have wonderful conversations, and this one is. Oh, I'm really excited. Just chatting with our guest Suzanne before we hit record, and I'm super jacked to get into what she does. But before we do that, we of course need to thank our amazing founder, Miss Shelley Lynn Hughes. Thank you, Shelley, for this amazing platform, this amazing community. Because without you, I wouldn't be here chatting with Suzanne. So thank you for that. And also, too, we need to thank our amazing sponsor of the Pursuit 365 Talk Wednesdays, and that is Leanne Miles with the Wilkins, I apologize. Leanne Miles with the Clinton Wilkins Mortgage Team. Thank you so very much for your generous sponsorship. And without further ado, I would love to introduce all of you to Suzanne. Suzanne is coming to, she's joining me from the greater Vancouver area. And it would be interesting to have an interactive session here because I would say, okay, I'd like everybody to weigh in the chat as to what you would think Suzanne does for work. And I got it wrong. So Suzanne, please share with us what it is that you do, because you don't meet these people every single day of your life.
Well, I'm actually an undercover private investigator.
Fascinating, so fascinating. I've only ever known one other. Can I call you a PI, or is that offensive?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, not at all.
Okay. I never know, right? It's like calling a police officer a cop. Like some police officers don't like that. So I would hate to start this off on the wrong foot. But I've only ever known one other person, and it was actually in my time of living in BC. And he was a private investigator for ICBC.
Correct. Most are.
And
that's the majority of PIs are male, and that's what they do. They just do surveillance. Until recently, it was mostly for ICBC. When I worked in personal injury cases, it was against ICBC and on behalf of the injured parties. But because I'm a female, it's a completely different sort of job description than most PIs. And that is because when people look at me, just like you alluded to, they don't assume that I am a private investigator. So I specialize in high risk ops and undercover ops. That being said, we do everything from civil and family, corporate, and criminal investigations. But I definitely do, because I specialize in the high risk stuff, I definitely do a lot more undercover work than most PIs do. And I'm also, as part of Axiom Investigations and Access Supervision, I'm also a high risk access supervisor. And that
okay. So what?
Go ahead.
And what does that mean? Like what? No, what does that mean? What falls in that realm of things?
So parental access, so access to time with children, and for whatever reason, with or without a court order, some parties are court ordered that they must be professionally supervised. Others do it voluntarily, especially if it's a case where they want a witness, because we do a forensic report, which just means for use in court. And then we testify to it at trial. So there's been countless cases over 18 years where the entirety of a party's evidentiary materials are just Axiom reports. So, it ranges there's a lot of reasons why a parent might be needing an access supervisor. But again, because we specialize in the highest risk and the highest conflict cases, it's a different ballgame. It's shocking. Most people don't realize this, but the access supervision industry isn't even regulated. So there are no standards, there's no training, there's no consensus, there's no licensing body or liability insurance requirements. And that's a huge problem, especially in BC. It's a big problem here. So I'm actually in the process of forming the Access Supervisors Association of BC and hoping to standardize the industry, because we're working with children, many of whom have experienced abuse and trauma, and there ought to be standards in that industry.
Wow. And that truly proves what a true entrepreneur you really are, because really entrepreneurship and business is about what problem do you solve and who do you solve it for. And the fact that, you know, you're paying attention and really honing in on where you see holes in the system and, you know, trying to mend those and patch those and, you know, fill in the gaps, that's absolutely incredible. So, you know, thank you for that contribution.
Go ahead.
Nope, it's all you.
Sorry about that. I think there's a delay, but it's funny that you say that about identifying holes and need within the industry, because like I said, I've been doing this for 18 years, but my background was always in criminology and sociology and counseling and severe behavior rehabilitation fields, but I hadn't been a PI, and my marriage sort of forced me to have to be one by default. And I'm a silver linings person, so what I found out was horrible, but I realized I was really good at it, so I parlayed it into a career. And I did identify a need, because I didn't want to be my own private investigator. I actually had attempted to hire 3 separate agencies, and I was kind of just appalled at their approach. And I remember thinking, I would treat people so much better than that if I were a PI. Clearly, there's a need in that industry for some women PIs. And the whole thing started because I identified a need.
Wow. Well, and I'm sorry to hear what the need was, but at the same point, it's very, very cool that, again, you've taken you know, what could be a negative and you've made it a positive. And I'm sure so many people have you know, their lives have been more positively impacted as a result, and that's an incredible story. And that is so interesting, because that truly is, I think, what Shelley's whole platform for Pursuit 365 is. So you are really the poster child in so many ways for this movement. Okay, so you've already answered my question then, you know, because my next one was sort of like, okay, so what led you to this? So you've already answered that. So you mentioned a few times this high risk ops, that you do a lot of high risk ops. What is that? Like, that is, you know, I love it when people speak their lingo. It reminds me of, I was a skating coach back in my day. So it's like me talking about triple Lutzes, you know, with another skater. Like, so there's flashy lingo, and I love it. So I would love you to unpack what falls in high risk ops.
Okay, so it means that there's an elevated risk scenario, and ops is for operations, and covert ops basically just means undercover. So the subject that we're investigating does not realize they're being, you know, investigated, obviously. And there are any number of factors that can lead to an identification on a file as high risk. Including with the access supervision. with individuals that other agencies don't or can't. But so there were a couple of incidents this past year alone. One involved a shooting during the visit. So high risk cases in the investigation field may be, trying to find out if somebody is, if somebody is doing something illegal, then they're identified as a high risk individual. We've done cases where the subject has actually tried to fight us. That we've, we have some crazy stories, honestly.
And this is where now on my side of things, being that you work in a secretive realm, then it's like, what are we allowed to talk about and what aren't we allowed to talk about? What falls behind the veil of secrecy, so to speak?
I don't think really much, as far as, as long as we're not identifying anything or giving, too many trade secrets. But, even just showing my face, some people might be like, what are you doing showing your face if you do undercover? But I don't know if you can see there's a couple of wigs up there and stuff. So and I do wear prosthetics at times for undercover. I make sure that my vehicle blends in, because I realize that, I don't blend in very easily, but I make sure my vehicle does. One time I had no other option but to disguise myself as a man, and it only had to be convincing from a rear view mirror from a distance. And I was a convincing man. I think I cried for a week afterwards. I got the case done. The client was happy, but I was devastated that I passed as a man.
That is fascinating. See, I think what you do could be so fun, to get to show up as different people and play different personas, and like, who am I going to be today?
So fun. The undercover stuff is it is the funnest. Sometimes, it takes a lot of thinking on your feet. I remember one time I panicked. I guess I panicked in my head. The subject recognized me from the other part of the business and knew I was a PI, but I was undercover. So I didn't know what else to do. So I pretended to be my own non-existent twin for like an hour.
That's brilliant. That is brilliant.
I don't know.
I love it.
But I stuck with it. Trust me.
So, Suzanne, who would be your main ideal client, so to speak? So, who is it mainly? Do people contact you directly? Do lawyers pull you in? A little bit of both? What does your business model look like in that regard?
Correct. That, we have a Google business listing and people can contact us directly, individually. And then we have been doing this so long that, counsel is all familiar with us. So, of course, counsel refers clients to us, and as do the courts, the justices, and other agencies as well. But anybody can hire a PI.
Okay. And so your main access then is through your website, you said, or like through a business listing? Because I don't imagine there, or maybe I'm wrong. Is there a whole lot of interaction with PIs on social media? I'm thinking probably not.
I haven't seen
so
it,
that's
actually.
where okay. So, because again, there's that veil of privacy and secrecy, right? Because a lot of times when I'm chatting with people here in this platform, it's, we talk about, hey, what's your favorite social media platform? Where do people connect with you? Whereas your business model being very different than that, there's an extra layer to things. So, Yes. So, so we Google private investigator Vancouver? Is that a way that someone could find you?
Right, either my name, Suzanne Edmundson, or just Axiom Investigations, or if they were just doing a Google search, private investigations, private investigator, access supervisor, access supervision, any of those. And then of course, there's a Google business listing for the business as well. And then I do have social media, both under Axiom PI and under my personal name. So we do have, we do have a presence online.
Okay, good. See, and this is where, I know there's so many things that I think people assume, right? And I was just as guilty. And that's why sometimes I like to call myself out, to maybe help others realize maybe that they've had the same question or the same assumption or whatnot. So that's incredible. So you said you've been doing this about 18 years?
Correct. Lots of changes over the years. That's in this industry, especially, with the regular, the vast majority of the PI workforce having always worked ICBC cases. Now they're no fault. So that's a huge change in the industry. And things like online dating scams and romance scams and phishing scams and fraud, that goes up with, the use of technology. And then, the technology I was using even 5 years ago is considered dinosaurs now, right? Like it is very dynamic, and constantly changing. But the year over year, the dating and romance scams, especially in Canada, are just going through the roof, especially since COVID.
Interesting. And I find it interesting that you stated specifically in Canada. Why do you think that is? Is it just because we're so nice?
Probably just because I had checked the Canadian anti-fraud statistics. So, it's probably just a function of that. But there are two types of romance scams that I've identified. There's the in-person, and then there's the online. And the in-person tends to be the long game, tends to be, the guy or the woman who moves in real quick and then never pays any rent, or, says they have a job and they don't, and more of that sort of thing. Although I've had some romance scam cases where one woman, I think she had about $5 million that she had accumulated through in-person romance scams. The in-person ones, that tends to mean that the subject is local and that we can actually gather information, and we do have a good resolution rate with those ones. The online, when they're exclusively online and somebody has sent money, willingly, there is all but zero chance of recovering any of those funds.
Wow, fascinating.
Yeah.
I'll call myself out. I'm a bit of a reality TV junkie, and during COVID, one of the shows I got sucked right into was the show Catfish. And I don't know if you've ever seen that one, but the gentleman that hosts the show, he got what he's termed now, and it's actually a word that's been put into the dictionary now.
I'm familiar with catfish means and the show. In fact, I can host that show. I get catfish all the time. That's why I don't know because of all the catfishing. I cannot do it.
But it's just fascinating to me to watch that show and to see how it unfolds and to how people unpack what they've been doing, or what they've been led to believe for years on end. And
yeah, absolutely.
We good?
Absolutely.
Okay. So to see it in real life, day in and day out with what you do, that just must be mind absolutely mind-blowing. And it must,
Yeah, and it's sad,
know,
and you get angry and you get sad. Like, people are being especially the in-person one, the person who the victim in the scenario, they're invested in what they believe is a legitimate relationship. I mean, obviously people on the online ones do as well, but the in-person long game ones, those are the ones that I see tend to do more of the emotional damage.
And that's the thing, right? They're hitting people's vulnerabilities. When somebody is willing to open themselves up to someone and, to give someone their time, their heart, their energy, their money, all the things, it is a true violation. And, how people look themselves in the mirror is beyond me. So, thank you for what you do, to help and advocate for, those victims. And it's wonderful to know that there are people fighting for people, and that I believe the truth always comes out, right? But it's wonderful to have someone in your corner to help you, or to help people along with that. So thank you. I'm going to thank you for so many of the victims out there, Suzanne.
Everybody deserves to find the truth. I'm a firm believer in that. Especially because in my situation, I never got my truth. I mean, I obviously, I can put things together, but I never got a full accounting of the truth. So I just put that energy into focusing on getting the truth for other people, and it helps me along the way too.
Fantastic. So I would love, I've got 3 questions that I'm going to ask you before we wrap up here. One would be, what is a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self? If you're going back in time, just thinking back, to your journey of life, what would be one piece of advice you would give to young Suzanne?
Trying to narrow it down to just one. Do not let your male
you can be
boss,
broad.
Okay, do not let your male boss remove your name from reports and put his on. And take credit for your work. Stand up for yourself. Find your voice sooner, girl, and get that done.
Amen. Yeah. Good for you. Okay, so taking the same but twisting it, and so this is where you might be the same answer, or might evolve a little bit. So we're going to go a little bit more specific now. What advice to a young entrepreneur would you give? Because you're a high-powered businesswoman, and so what would be a piece of advice that you would give to that person that thinks they might want to start their own business, or they think they might want to branch out on their own, or they think they might have an idea? What advice would you give to that young entrepreneur?
I think I would say that integrity, ethics, and reputation still matter. They still count, and take that with focus on even just one aspect of your business and become an authority at it. Be the best at it, so that when other people are looking into how to do that, it's you they reach out to and ask. And I think that if you put those two together, it could, relate to any number of different business models. That would be my advice.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So I'm going to do a little shift then on your answer there. So in your line of work, right? Because we all have our many facets of our business and whatnot, and you've alluded to all these different components to what you do as a PI. What's your thing that lights you up about what you do? Like, what's your favorite thing? Like, where you know that, I got this on my agenda today. Yay. What's that thing that really juices you up?
The undercover work. But that it's kind of twofold, because it's the undercover work that I love, that juices me up in the morning. I'm stoked to go do. I spend a lot of time preparing and doing the pretext. The part of my job that is the most rewarding, however, is working with the kids who are going through that difficult time in their life.
Being their advocate and being there someone they can rely on.
Correct. And there is a bond built between the supervisor and the children. Oftentimes we're on a file for 1.5 years. So every time that child or children sees their parent, they would have the supervisor there. So, again, the majority of these children are going through a difficult time, traumatized, and the bond is really, really important, and it's really beneficial if a child is able to build a bond with the supervisor. But so that is the most rewarding part. The most fun part is definitely the undercover stuff.
Cool. Okay, so we're getting close to wrapping up here, and this has been so fascinating. I'm so intrigued. I've loved every second of this. So I've been asking a consistent question on I think all but one of these interviews, and I love the question so much because I love the spin on the answers. So basically, we're spinning you in a different direction, and the question goes, if you were to give, okay, so we know that you're a PI and you specialize in all this fascinating stuff. So normally I would hire you then to do a TED talk and talk about all your PI work and, guide us in your knowledge there. But I want to learn about a different aspect of you. So if you were to give a TED talk on nothing that you are known for, what would your TED talk be about?
Nothing I'm known for.
So what's a secret? What's a little secret passion of yours, or what's a secret thing that, you're into, or that you love to learn about, or?
Okay, this is I mean, cats. I would give a TED talk on cats.
Okay, what's interesting is there's a individual, Justin Saint, who I interviewed, oh my goodness, I don't know, a couple months ago, and Justin's answer was the same, but specifically, yes, so Justin works at a cat rescue in Richmond, and he talked to me about vibrations that cats give off, and that when Justin walks into a room, he doesn't bring treats. He waits for cats, to actually approach, and and then he goes, because he was talking about vibrations of cats, and so that's just so interesting. So what is it about cats with you? Is it the independence of a cat? Is it
absolutely? I'm an independent person. I like that you show them the box once, done. You don't need to take them outside, but mostly I love that catitude. I mean, cats have boundaries. Cats know what they want, when they want it, and how they want it, and they don't set their boundaries aside for anyone.
Love that. So I'm assuming, are you a cat person? Do you own a
yes,
cat?
That's why I was hesitant to say I was a cat lady, but yes, I'm a cat lady. As far as I'm concerned, happiness comes from cats. Yes.
Well, and that's the thing, right? And cat people are cat people, and zero judgment. My husband loves cats. Me, my my cousin, no, yeah, my cousin's cat was staying at my grandma's house when I was a kid, and it hissed at me, and it's like I've been traumatized. So, but like
Well,
you, I love that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if that was your formative experience with them, I can see why. For some reason, I just lucked out, and these cats I have, these amazing cats I have, they haven't had any training at being like therapy cats or anything, and you should see them with like traumatized children who come here for their visits, and it's incredible. So. I guess I have therapy cats now somehow.
Interesting. And there's, so I think you and Justin need to connect, because it sounds like there's something about this vibration thing that he was talking about. So clearly Justin's clearly, no, Justin is not, but clearly Justin is going to have to do the TED Talk. I love it. That's awesome. And Justin will laugh too. Oh my goodness. Suzanne, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for, showing us behind the veil of secrecy, so to speak, and sharing a little bit of your world and the exciting things that you do. And again, thank you so much for what you do offer, because clearly it is very, very needed. So thank you. Thank you again to Shelley. Oh, I love it. So,
and can I just say happy International Women's Day? I'd just like to wish all women out there happy International Women's Day.
Absolutely.
And now
thank you for that. And that's great. And really, if we recall, the very first Pursuit 365 book came out on International Women's Day. So today really is a big day in this community. So thank you again, Shelley, for this amazing platform, and thank you to Leanne for the sponsorship. So everybody have a fantastic Wednesday. Keep being awesome, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having